Hello everyone, my name's Matt Johnson and welcome to the internationally interesting times. That's right, we have global news for you from Gaza and then heading further east to China and even further east. In fact, so far east, it might only be a few miles west of us, Ireland. I'll be honest, geography's not my strong suit. And neither's grey. Well, all right, let's get started with some good news. Yes, really, from Gaza.
And we begin with major breaking news out of the Middle East, where we can now report that negotiators in Qatar have reached a Gaza ceasefire deal, and it has been accepted by Hamas.
That's right, peace has broken out in Gaza thanks to Donald Trump, is a sentence I'm more than happy to say. I mean, fantastic. Hostages from both sides are being released. Hopefully food, water and medical supplies can now start to get through to the Palestinian people. So let's just enjoy this and take a breath. Oh, how about some light relief? There's Starmer as one of a few there for a frankly inappropriate photo op. Oh, he looks like he's going to pick up his university degree. No, off you pop. Hilarious. And then a bit later, Keir no-mate Starmer is unsure what to do here. Okay, he does look like a jealous husband watching the wife get hit on by other men. Darling, the taxi's outside. Come on. We talked about this. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Whether Starmer had nothing to do with it or everything to do with it, irrelevant. What is relevant is that families after years apart were reunited. And where bombs rain down on Gaza, there is now deafening silence.
And this morning, American mediators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner rushing to Israel for urgent talks, touching down here in the past few hours because the fragile truce between Israel and Hamas collapsing over the weekend.
Stop. Please, just for a day or two, can we not?
It's not good news. The Israeli military is currently striking the Gaza Strip.
Okay, hours then. I'll take hours.
Israel, the Israeli occupation as they describe it, has committed 80 violations since the ceasefire.
All right, for the length of this show then. Yeah, that's something at least. Lee Anderson, Reform MP and very much the moron's moron, was on hand to offer his congratulations to the PM in his own unique fashion.
Whilst the Prime Minister is swanning around Egypt, shamelessly trying to claim credit for the Gaza-Israel peace deal, we have the Mayor of London stating that the chant from the rivers to the sea is not anti-Semitic.
Yeah, that's the number one problem with Gaza, chanting. So no, saying from the river to the sea is not anti-Semitic. Also, what exactly is the Prime Minister supposed to do? Stop protests he doesn't like? It's a bit worrying that I suspect the answer to that from you will be, yes, that's what ours is going to do. But this is good news. A ceasefire and releasing of hostages on both sides is good, right?
This is now a very exciting time for Israel and for the entire Middle East.
I mean, yes, the fact that Trump hasn't mentioned Palestine as an independent state and he stood in front of an Israeli flag and Hamas appear to be using this ceasefire to rearm and take revenge on Palestinians that dare to oppose them. And Israel has killed dozens in Gaza. And Trump's only interested in this holy place as a piece of real estate. And there are more red flags on this peace deal than a fervently patriotic flag shop in Beijing that ran out of yellow paint. Speaking of which, China. Now, we are actually going to China. But don't worry. China came to us.
Let's just bring you a bit of breaking news about the China spy case, which the CPS has dropped after deeming that the evidence did not show that China was a threat to national security. Stick
with me here, because this is involved properly to the point like a John le Carre spy thriller. A case of tinker, no-tailor, toolmaker, economy breaker. And dare I say, there's a bit of nuance to this. Nuance. So, the story appears to revolve around the collapse of a trial involving two British men, Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry, accused of spying for China. Cash was allegedly handing info to his friend Berry, who was then giving those details to someone high up in the Chinese Communist Party. The thing is, as I said, this is ridiculously involved. So much so, I genuinely don't have time to talk about the meeting, which happened a few days before the trial collapsed, at Number 10, which included Jonathan Powell, the UK's National Security Advisor, Oliver Robbins, the Foreign Office's top diplomat, and no one else. Certainly no minister from the government. where they talked about the case and what they should do in the event of these men being prosecuted and nothing else. Certainly not collapsing the case by not handing over vital evidence requested by the CPS. Now, you may think that that's unlikely. Yeah, me too. But neither of us can prove it. It's also likely that the CPS thought it had enough evidence to prosecute these two men, and when they realised they didn't, went back to the UK government, which had since changed tenants with no forwarding address, apparently. I mean, it's not great, and I've no doubt that more will come out when the head of the CPS, Stephen Parkinson, will get grilled about it by MPs over the next few weeks. But it can all be summed up by basically saying, we don't want to fight with China, if we can help it, which is the Labour government's approach. But it was also the Tories' approach when they were in power. Dominic Cummings spoke about it happening back in 2020. And, unsurprisingly, nothing about Johnson, Truss and Sunak's approach to China made them back off. If anything, it had the opposite effect. There was a point where Johnson, as Prime Minister, didn't stop the takeover of a Welsh microchip factory by a Chinese company, which was described by a former security chief as a first-order strategic issue. At the same time, Sunak, as Chancellor, was after closer UK-Chinese economic relations via the return of the UK-China economic and financial dialogue. And at the same time, Liz Truss, as Foreign Secretary, ordered the withdrawal of British judges from Hong Kong in case they started to side with those pesky democracy protesters. Of course, all these guys aren't even in power anymore. Not sure Liz Truss is aware of that. But anyway, the current captain of the Titanic is Kemi Badenoch, and she's letting everyone know the time for talking is over. It's time to get tough with China by talking about it.
They are too scared to tackle China. They need to take a long, hard look at how a spy case collapsed with them having notice of it and them not doing anything at all to protect our country. They're too busy trying to smear the last government instead of doing the job that they've been elected to do. And them trying to pin this on people who are no longer in office, who don't have access to the documents, I think is completely shameful. Labour cannot be trusted. They are weak and they need to take a long, good look at themselves.
Sure, but when she was actually in power, as business secretary, she said this.
Fundamentally, is China a friend or a foe?
China is a country that we do a lot of business with. China is a country that is significant in terms of world economics. It sits on the UN Security Council. We certainly should not be describing China as a foe. Basically,
the Tories are the kid who's turned up to a school punch-up and just stands on the sideline shouting, fight, 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 fight. To add to everything else, the Chinese are after building an embassy in London. That should read, a huge embassy in London. Biggest Chinese embassy anywhere in Europe, in fact.
Why does China want to build an enormous embassy in the heart of London?
We just have an interest to do tourism for kids to get the education, to engage in normal trade, but nothing geopolitical at all.
Our embassy needs to be big enough for all the love the Chinese government has for the UK, and for all those massive telescopes and ear trumpets so we can watch and hear everything you do. With love, of course. But the government has put a halt on the embassy while it tries to get more information what the Chinese are up to. A delay that has not pleased our masters, overlords.
And if Britain wants to ruffle feather with China, the biggest economy in the world, a very powerful and influential military power in the world, well, you need to be fully aware of all the consequences.
China, China, China. With the greatest respect, you don't scare us. Certainly not with this whole economy business. We were at the centre of the world's largest trading bloc, with preferential treatment, I might add. And you know what we did? We left. We did that to ourselves. That's the equivalent of drinking battery acid and sucking razor blades, for no other reason than because we can reclaim our sovereignty. We don't need to eat, pay rent, stay warm or involve ourselves in any sort of recreational activity whatsoever, because we've got flags. Roll Britannia, Britannia rolls the waves, Britain never, never, never will be slave. Hang on. What does this say? Made in China? Oh, fuck. And that's it. No time to talk about the fact that there is some good news in relation to the economy.
The UK is the fastest growing G7 economy so far this year. So it's easily surpassed the US, which I think is the closest rival. And that means that it's hard to tell a negative story about Britain when actually in a tough global environment, it seems to be one of the countries doing a bit better.
Hard, but not impossible.
And when you look at inflation, which again, the IMF has done their latest forecast of inflation, we have the strongest or highest inflation in the G7 in the next couple of years.
Blimey. Our economy is going through more ups and downs than a seesaw that's invested in lifts. And finally, no time to talk about the Irish. And look, there is no other way to say this, but their politics is mad, like crazy. I mean, not giving the job for life to the guy that popped out the right vagina mad, but still pretty barking. Okay, so the elections for the Irish president are happening this Friday, and there have been a ton of possible contenders. Conor McGregor, Michael Flatley, you know, the Riverdance guy, a weather presenter, and a whole host of others, each more Irish sounding than the last. But the final three have been reduced to two, as Fianna Fáil, or should that be Fianna Fáil, as their candidate Jim Gavin has returned to the arms of his family. It comes after he failed to clarify reports on today's The Week in Politics debate that he allegedly did not repay a tenant €3,300 in rent mistakenly paid over a decade ago. A decade ago? Bloody hell, Ireland, you call that corruption? Pfft. Over here, they would have kept their job and sued the tenant for emotional distress using a lawyer whose fees they would have then claimed on expenses. Anyway, the race is now between Fine Gael's Heather Humphreys and the independent Catherine Connolly, seen here as a keepy-uppy grandma, which is different to a keepy-uppy grandpa, which just sounds like street slang for Viagra. But good luck to whoever picks up this particular job. It's going to be pretty interesting, I think we can agree. Both from your west neighbours and from your east neighbours. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you have enjoyed these videos, then feel free to like, share, comment, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.